Alrighty then, Kohais. I think it's about time we talk about some Genshin again. And because Krai came out, I beaten the main story, I think it's time to actually talk about what I thought about it. Because there is a lot to really yap about when it comes down to Krai, when it comes to its, exploration, its characters, its story, many different things. And honestly, it is by far one of the bigger patches that I've been actually really excited to see when it comes down to it, since really Fontaine, honestly. Because even Natland, I was like, oh, it's hype, but I don't know what to feel about it, right? Now, when, all this stuff came up for Cry, I was like, yep, I'm having expectations, at least medium-sized expectations to see maybe, hopefully, things will be good. And honestly, I'm gonna be real, trying to look at anything in a negative sort of way when it came down to Cry so far, I was genuinely trying to feel how bad things could be. Is there waste of time here, and here? Is that gonna be the case? Especially when it's story. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't find anything story-wise at all. And honestly, it's kind of like a 10 out of 10 for me personally, which is a bit crazy to say, but that's kind of how I feel. But obviously, before we jump into details of the story, also you're probably seeing some story in the background, so obviously if you haven't played it yet, you might need to go ahead and just play it so you don't get spoiled on everything, because we will talk about a lot of stuff that I can try to remember and recall here. And obviously, we will try to structure this like we did, with the Natland review, kind of talking about the nation itself so far, and, its characters, its story, and things of the sort like that, as best as we can, try to keep it, I guess, segmented in a way. So, let's start off with Krai itself as a nation. It is above Ochkan, or not really Ochkan, but Natland, and just a little bit over in that direction of the map. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a very weird looking place when I first got there, because honestly, to me, it fits Krai. This is what I expected Krai to honestly, have the vibe of, especially Nasha Town. But I'm not gonna lie, if you ask me, oh, is this a peak looking place just in general, I would actually say no. I would actually say there's way more better hub places for a city in Genshin that is way better looking than what Krai is. Krai fits what it is, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm not even saying this to be like, oh, an absolute negative on, the city of Krai. It's no better than what you expected going to be. Like, it's what you think it was supposed to be, right? But ultimately, though, Krai looked like shit. Like, I would not want to live there at all. And that's just how it is. Fontaine, as much criminals run through there, is a much better looking place than Krai. Mondstadt, Liyue, all these places are just way better looking places. But I kind of like that, though. That it's kind of shitty and run down. Because obviously, this place, one, has so much trouble running through it. And then two, at the same time, it's not really a place that people would really go to, unless they really have no choice, or they just really got screwed over in a situation. That's just kind of how it is, and they just end up in Krai, because Krai has a ton of people that comes from different walks of life. Decent people is rare, and asshole people or thieves are just basically they're out the wazoo. And that is just essentially all you're really gonna get. So the people already set a pretty much a theme of, yeah, you think Fontaine is bad? We're gonna make this shit like ghetto Fontaine, essentially. That's essentially what this shit feels like. You're basically trapped in a Fontaine ghetto, and that's what it is. But obviously, that's not all there is when it comes down to Krai. You do get places like Hisi Island with the Frost Moon Scions that honestly look really beautiful for a few reasons. Like, one, the dang landscape, the music there is amazing, and also the big statue of Columbina. I don't think there's ever a moment in my life where I decided to glaze and look at a statue and try to feel up on the statue from its feet to its actual calves to its thigh to its small booba to her beautiful face to all that stuff. I didn't think I was gonna glaze up the dang statue that dang hard like I thought, but I absolutely crashed out in the best possible way, because yes, you have a giant statue of the moon goddess. To be honest with you, I gotta climb all of that. I need to know every inch of that damn statue when it comes down to it. So yeah, they basically won on that front. But then you also get, the big ass piece of shit fortress that the Fatui basically got, which is on Paha Island. And that shit is massive. That thing is big as hell. It looks like something out of Final Fantasy VII. I'm not gonna lie. So when it comes down to it though, yeah, there's a lot of nonsense that going on there too. Like, obviously, I haven't explored that island too much. Actually, I haven't actually explored it at all. I think it's at 0%. But from the mission of the story, what you can see, there's a lot of layers to that damn place. A lot of damn layers inside the fortress itself. And honestly, when I do get to explore that place, I am going to be curious to see what the hell is going to get put in there, honestly, because I actually don't really know. But just from the story perspective of what we did look around and see, it's not necessarily all that bad. The only thing in the exploration so far that I don't really like is how to use the whole Kuvaki, basically the new system that they implemented for this region, which is like the whole magnet stuff. I don't really like how Kuvaki works, because sometimes when I pick up an object, it doesn't really like do what I need it to do, like stay holding in my possession. Sometimes it drops off, sometimes it's hard to get it from a certain angle. So yeah, that's like really annoying at times. But outside of that, that's like the only complaint I have about the exploration so far. Everything else been pretty much okay. The puzzle's been fine so far, at least on Hisi Island. I haven't really had too much of a complaint about anything else outside of that. So it kind of is what it is when it comes down to it, right? So yeah, so far, Krai is not necessarily a bad place to explore. I like how different every place kind of looks and feels. So that's also like another real good positive when it comes down to it. Now, let's talk about the whole characters, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens when it comes down to these small acts alone. You thinking, oh, these acts 1 and 2 ain't gonna have that much peek into it. Bitch, it might be the best, strongest start that any of these nations ever had. Like, and Nefa was guiding us around a little bit, telling us a bit about what's going on. Then you had at one point Llama also kind of explaining what Hisi Island is, and also the integration of, you know, character quests and moon stuff that you probably would normally read about. I love how much that is flown into each other so well, like actually seamlessly done, which honestly saves, one, people a lot of reading, and two, at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's sticking out in any sort of way, which makes me kind of mad at Hoyo a little bit, because it's like, oh, so you can do something cool and you can make it work. Why the hell hasn't this been the formula the whole dang time? That's kind of what it makes me feel like, honestly, when it comes down to it. Also, we kind of had a lot of cutscenes this, you know, I would say this Archon patch, or whatever you want to call it. There's been a lot of cutscenes when it came down to a lot of the main major story stuff, which usually we wouldn't get this damn many. Maybe like one or two, but that's basically about it. And then so far we just been getting like 4, maybe 5-ish, mainly 5-ish, and that's just kind of how it is. Aino was not necessarily as annoying as I thought she was going to be. She kind of is on that type of timing, because obviously she's a literal child, but when it comes down to it, you know, it is what it is. But still, I don't hate Aino. Like, I actually kind of find Aino kind of fun, right? Maybe gameplay wise, I don't really care too much for her, but I do kind of find her a bit fun because she actually, you know, is a bit interesting. Granted, she can be also a bit of a head ass, because the only thing she cares about is her vengeance, and that's literally it. So there's that one thing. Then you also have Nefer, which I'm not gonna sit here and lie, and this might be a feels bad moment for a lot of people, but I don't really care for Nefer that hard. Am I strange for saying that? Because you know what she reminds me of? She's just a tall, Dendro having, straight up slick, kind of like mommy sort of character that's just basically Yelan. She is just basically Yelan without Dendro and without the Sumerian touch. That is literally all that Nefer kind of is. To be honest, I was gonna go maybe pull for Nefer because she seems cool, because, you know, she looks sexy as hell, but honestly, I kind of don't really care. Unless the next patch basically kind of showcases why Nefer's cool and why she's a bit more better than what Yelan is, or maybe even more so different than Yelan, I don't really see a reason as to why I would want to pull. Like, she isn't overly boring or anything like that. She's okay, but that's just basically it. She's just Yelan, but with a different coat of paint, and that's literally how it is to me. The only times she really truthfully shine in my mind is when she's with Yehoda. And speaking of Yehoda, Yehoda is best girl. Can we all agree? Can we all sit here and agree for 5 minutes that Yehoda is possibly the best girl in the entirety of Not Cry so far, in terms of, like, you know, how they express that character, how that character's kind of being utilized in whatever way. She has so many different expressions. She has so much different stuff and sauces to her that honestly, it's really damn cool. And also, I forgot to mention this, but Not Cry is the beginning of where they start letting the characters kind of roam around doing different stuff. You'll see them do different things every now and again. And honestly, it's really damn cool. Like, after getting done with the story quest and everything, Yehoda came through when I was at the Adventurers Guild trying to get my daily commission. Here comes Yehoda off the side of the screen. I'm like, what the hell? What you doing over here? So it's easy. So it's really cool to see how much they integrate so much, again, so much stuff. But going back to Yehoda though, literally, if she comes out on banner, I'm basically pulling for her. Even if she's 4-star, I kind of want to pull for her just because Yehoda's great. She genuinely is great. She really is dumb as hell, but in an overthinker. But honestly, she's really damn good, and I really like the shit out of her. Of all the characters, I would say I was the most 50-50 on. It was basically gonna be Yehoda because I didn't really know how they're gonna go about her, didn't know how the vibe of her was gonna be, if I'm gonna be honest. And the fact that they literally was like, you know what, we'll make her the most expressive character ever. Yeah, I'm down for Yehoda for sure. She's absolutely lit. I don't see how anybody can sit here and say, yeah, Yehoda wasn't worth it, because she absolutely is. Hell, if I'm gonna be honest, the only best moments that Nefer really do have is when Yehoda's on screen. That to be honest, that's only really the big time when Nefer, to me, is like actually like fun and actually like a good character, is when Yehoda is there effing things up. And that's just how it is. Lama, or Lauma, however you want to say her name, essentially she's good, right? She's a good middle ground of a character, I would say. You know, because obviously she's a priestess for the moon and things of sort like that, the moon chanter and all that sort of stuff. She's very, you know, attuned to nature and things like that. Very peaceful, very simple, very minded, very demure, and all that sort of stuff. I don't have a problem with her, and honestly, I wanted to pull for her because of how good she was actually represented in the story. She made me lose my 50-50 again, really 55 if I'm being honest, meaning that the third 50-50 in a row I missed. So somehow, by some miracle, you know, somebody's obviously gonna come home with the next 50-50. But when it comes down to it though, it's ridiculous. That's crazy. Why did it take me all the way to guarantees again, since Skirk has been nothing but guarantees pulls to try to get the dang character? It's crazy. But when it comes down to it though, you know, Llama's really damn good. I love the lore that she gives with everybody, you know, trying to, I guess, like, integrate the whole moon stuff together, trying to talk about the frost moon, the iridescent moon, the eternal moon, and stuff like that. You know, Kuthar, which is also, like, you know, Columbina's other name that they gave her and stuff. It's just a good time. She's a very good lore lady, and she has 2 big ass moons on her whole ass body that just look really damn good. Honestly, she's just pleasing to look at, and you can very much tell that there is a lot of just really good high detail stuff just on her model too. Like, her model feels better than most other characters, which is kind of crazy to say, but it's also really true. And also, I'm really glad her story, or at least her part of the story, did answer a question I was wondering. Because I'm like, okay, so the Frost Moon signs, they praise the moon, praise the sun, praise the moon. But essentially, I'm like, do y'all know the moon in the sky isn't actually real, and the one that's actually real is the one that's destroyed, or the ones that are destroyed, or maybe the one that stood still? And she didn't know, and I'm so glad that whole story point was basically telling the people, hey, the moon that you see up in the sky is fake as hell. The one that's actually up there is destroyed, ass beaten, all that sort of stuff. And that's amazing. I actually genuinely do love that to the highest extent. And that just absolutely just, again, just going in directions I like to see the story go, right? And that's just how it is. Also, how the hell did I forget this? I do need to talk about the Traveler for 5 seconds, because I'm not gonna sit here and cap. They let her speak. They let the Traveler actually speak. They let Lamine speak for more than 5 lines. They let her speak for more than 5 lines. Like 10 minutes, 30 minutes of a story, they let her talk? That's crazy. I don't ever see the Traveler get to speak ever again, you know? And that's just how it is. That's usually how it is. They just say one thing and then that's it for the whole quest. But no, they said Traveler's gonna talk now. Traveler's actually gonna yap a bit more than what they ever yapped before. And it was amazing. Whether it was, talks with, Columbina, which I actually do appreciate that she's like the only one that actually seemingly having consistent conversations with Columbina and with her actual voice and such. It's also a really good thing. Then you also have like moments where you probably seen on screen where her and Ether, kind of team up and whatever. Even though that's really not Ether and that's just a wild hunt being on some bullshit. But still, it was just a crazy time. The fact that she actually made a choice to kind of just say, F everybody else, I just want to spend time with family. And that's just how it is crazy. And I'm not gonna lie, that whole section there too, with, them kind of teaming up, I was like, wait, we're getting Ether this early? One, and I kind of thought about this too. I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Why the hell would they team up with the Fatui when their whole thing is just Conria and that's literally it? I don't see why they would have a reason to, considering that they have no reason to team up with the Fatui at all since the beginning of the game. They haven't really done anything with them, so I don't think this is real. This is either an illusion or it really is them, and they're gonna maybe make an excuse as to why Ether is here. And I'm so glad that that's not really the case, and they actually, said that this was like an illusion or whatever, and that's really damn good because that makes a lot of sense. That makes more sense than Ether actually being there in person for real, But they did a very good job to kind of convince you that that's basically it. And maybe, you can guess that, it's not really Ether, it's somebody else too. But I was actually just kind of like, oh shit, that's just how it is, right? The only times I started to really question it is just with how much abyssal power is being used, and obviously at the end when they started talking about bringing stuff to me specifically, and it's like, yeah, okay, you're not necessarily Ether. Who the hell actually are you? But I just love the fact that for once it feels like, Travel actually did something pretty damn bad or was on the road to doing something pretty bad when it comes down to it, only for her to kind of just feel called out and just to feel like shit after kind of really basically afterwards what happened. It was just a good time because we don't really see Traveler in that sort of situation. We don't really see Traveler make a selfish decision like that. So it's nice to see that they are capable of doing so. They have stated that they wanted to make selfish decisions before in the past, but they never really fully committed to the idea. So it's nice to see that, oh yeah, something is the Traveler's fault, and even though he does get, I guess like have a resolution of it pretty quickly, still it is just nice to see that. Also, it's just nice to see that Ether and in some shape and form, Lamine also, can piece up monsters together using abyssal power, which was also crazy as hell. Can we get more dual like ultimate attacks, please? I would very much like that, if I'm gonna be honest. So that's just how it is for me personally. Flynn's going on to him is really good too. I would definitely say Flynn's easily is like a character I didn't know if I was going to really care too much for. He looked cool, but I didn't know if I was going to care. And the fact that he's a fae, the fact that he's actually a fae and not a regular human being or a person that's dead or anything like that, and it's legit like a fairy and a fae, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy work. I didn't think I was going to actually pull that. So that's really cool. But that's just pretty much how it is, right? And the fact that he was boxing up one other dude that we'll talk about in a very quick second, but still, it's just like, damn, Flynn's kind of out here. He got out here piecing people up for the Lightkeepers. I see kind of how he operates. It just is what it is when I go down to it, And then ultimately, obviously, we do have to talk about the Fatui Harbinger, Sandrone, and obviously Columbina herself. Let's start off with Sandrone. I thought I was going to hate her ass. I legit thought she was going to suck ass. I thought she was going to be an asshole. She is. But I thought she was going to be the wackest person on the planet, right? That's just genuinely how I thought. But then, slowly, thoughts kind of occurred to me. I'm like, wait, we have Aino, who's basically already the same as like, Sandrone when it comes to building mechs and stuff like that too. We also see that, she also, you know, I guess the way she kind of acts a little bit is very much maybe, I guess, sort of slightly kind of showing that she kind of cares in a way. So I was like, is she just gonna be like some kind of asshole meanie head and then essentially just turn up good and all that sort of stuff at the end of really at the end of the day? Maybe not fully good, but just good enough to kind of necessarily, not be an absolute asshole. And I feel like that's exactly the direction that they're going to. She's just tsundere. That's literally all she is. But I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I will give her credit when credit is due. When you first get to Krai and you really go to the Adventurers Guild and you see her there, she is such a bitch. She was such on timing at that point, and it was amazing. I loved it, honestly. I honestly really like Sandrone a lot more than I thought I was. Instead of you giving me random asshole character, you gave me random asshole character that's actually kinda likable. I kinda like Sandrone a lot. And if she is tsundere, while I don't really care too much for tsunderes, I'll give her a pass because we hardly really get those in this game. The only other character that's like this is Diona, and that's quite literally it, right? At least as far as I can think of. So when it comes down to it, it's kind of crazy, But at the same time, I'm kind of here for it. So if she's gonna be playable, this is probably the way they're gonna make her playable. Sandrone is just really effing lit. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like, I was straight up in the Discord chat yesterday, kind of just like, I don't know why I feel so, like, drawn to Sandrone more than I thought I was gonna be, but I actually am. And high key, if it came pushed down, really, I ain't gonna say the exact same thing, but it came down to push come to shove, I ain't gonna lie, Sandrone could do some weird shit with me. She can, and I'll be here for it. I don't know why, but I'll be definitely here for it. Just don't bring big ass Polonia, that big ass mech that she got. But ultimately, if you want to bring her doll self here, I'm here for it. Let's just see what happens. And obviously, as the more you play out through this quest, the more you will very much feel like, yeah, Sandrone does feel like she's just gonna be on some tsundere type timing, not really care too much about what the Fatui actually wants and do what she want to do and all that sort of stuff. And that's really more clear as she got pissed off at Columbina for saving her ass when it comes down to it. And speaking of the Harbinger that I've been looking forward to the most of all the Harbingers that I basically laced up this entire time, Columbina herself, or the Moon Maiden, or Kuthar, or whatever the hell you want to call her, because we don't really know her real name. But when it comes down to it, though, I'm obsessed with Columbina. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I think I genuinely am. Like, she's great. I knew I was gonna like her in the beginning already. I didn't realize I was gonna like her this damn much, right? Granted, we haven't seen her snap and pop off and do a lot of cool things yet, but honestly, I can wait. I can very much wait because we know it's going to happen at some point in time. Columbina is easily one of those characters that is like the princess character that doesn't know much of anything. And that's what she strikes me as, right? She basically was, really kind of to her, betrayed by the Frost Moon Scions by taking use of her power. Then went to the Fatui, and then they basically used her for the same thing. And so now she's just basically by herself. I think the best thing about Columbina, I think the best thing for her is just how soft-spoken she is. How dainty and light she kind of feels, honestly, when it comes down to it, And that's what I basically would expect it from her, outside of maybe like a little bit of a horror element because of the Hoya Fair. But still, this is pretty much what I thought Columbina was going to be. I just didn't think they was going to do it so well. They carried her, like, really damn well when it comes down to it, even so much so as to like helping out Traveler here and there, but also kind of feeling, and also kind of feel sad for her because it's like the only reason why you do anything for her is because you need something in return, and that's literally it. And it's kind of like a habit right now, which kind of honestly sucks, right? And she's kind of lonely and all that sort of stuff too, which doesn't really help. It just is what it is, right? But ultimately, she at least showed us also the past too, about what happened when we landed here, especially with the damn spaceship and such. And for some reason, our sibling was already outside of the spaceship, before we, actually see anybody exit it, which is weird. And I have a theory about that, which probably won't make a lot of sense, but could it be that somehow they always were here on Tibet? And maybe we just had fake memories that they traveled with us throughout the stars and planets? I don't know. Maybe that's for a future video. But when it comes down to it, though, she did help us a lot when it comes down to discovering new stuff. And also kind of just, saying obviously things that is slightly cryptic-ish, but also kind of, doing what she needs to do when it comes down to, giving us just information of what the hell is happening with the moons and the lore behind it and stuff like that. She doesn't know everything about the moons, but she knows some stuff. I think easily my favorite thing about Columbina is her singing. Her singing is easily one of the best things. And it's kind of good because obviously when you go throughout the story, throughout the whole quest, going back and forth to her place a little bit, sometimes you'll hear her singing, sometimes you won't. And sometimes, and that's like an indicator to tell you, okay, if she's singing, then she's here. If she isn't singing, that means Columbina is somewhere else. And that's just naturally how it is. Also, I don't know for anybody that hasn't yet to experience this yet, but if you get done with the Archon quest and you were to go back to visit not Arlecchino, but go back to visit Columbina, wherever she might be, she has different locations where she will pop up at. Like when I went back there the first time, it zoomed in on like the big moon statue, and then she popped up behind me. I was like, what the I'm like, girl, don't do that. You beautiful. I ain't gonna hurt you now. But like, don't do that. You don't do that to people. And then she was just saying that, oh, that was like a game her and Arlecchino played at one point in time. So it makes sense also why Arlecchino didn't necessarily have something negative to say versus the other people, right? That's just how it is. Because really, if you think about it, Child don't really like her. Scaramouche was like, yeah, F this person, they're weird, I don't like them either. But maybe that's just because they're assholes in some shape and form, and maybe that's just because in general, they were just, again, using her power for bullshit reasons. And that's just how it is. But Kino was maybe one of the people that, actually didn't mind Columbina in a weird way. The only thing that Arlecchino would say is that if she said something, she'll say something weird back, and that's kind of what you would get. And it seems like they're on good terms. So honestly, Columbina Arlecchino, I'm kind of here for that. That's a good time to see. And it's even more good time because Sandrone and her is basically on the same sort of level as well. And yes, Sandrone will BS and say that, Columbina has a Fatui warrant on her head and all that sort of stuff. But let's be real, they kind of feel like sisters. One's calm, one's angry, and that's just how it is. So I would like to hope that, they won't necessarily be at each other's throats, or Sandra won't do anything crazy when it comes down to it. But easily, Columbina's like one of the best harbingers or ex-harbingers, I really should say, that is just amazing and peak and all that sort of stuff. It was just good. She's just good, and I honestly can't wait for the day she actually comes out as a playable character, because, damn well I'm putting everything for that, for sure. And that's just ultimately how it's gonna be. I really am curious to see what she is about when it comes to the moon and wanting to go there. Does that mean we gotta break through the firmament and actually see the fake sky permanently for real this time? Or is there gonna be something else at play? Who really knows? But ultimately, I'm here for Columbina for sure. Honestly, I gotta put a ring on that for sure. So that's just how that goes. And then at last, we gotta talk about one of the damn 5 sinners, because they popped up as well, which is Solari Man, Rarier, right? Man's out here being on bull. That's literally the most I could say. Man's out here being on the most bull when it comes down to it, trying to absolutely, decimate everybody and trying to, really try to manipulate their own form to appear as they're somebody else. Honestly, it's just a crazy time. It was just a crazy time. The fact that Flynn's actually was able to, or some shape or form, able to kind of hold her own, Traveler as well to hold her own, is kind of crazy. I thought honestly Traveler was going to get whooped. Because we usually see Traveler get whooped in a lot of situations. I thought that was going to be the case. So the fact that that wasn't the case for once, I'm actually a bit shocked. I'm happy that that wasn't the case. I'm actually happy that, travel actually cooked a bit here. And the fact that, Rerir kind of was on BS and kind of, really trying to rebuild himself like the Bakanawa in a way was also kind of crazy. And the fact that really what we saw was only 10% of his power is also wild. Makes me wonder if he's gonna get any more of it back, or is it just gonna be what this is right here? Are we gonna beat Rerir in Krai's patches? Like, what exactly is the game plan for him, honestly? Because I don't necessarily know. I would imagine Dane would need to pop up at some point in time to deal with Rerir. I would imagine that, but we don't necessarily know, and that's just how it is, right? And I'll give Sandrone really a bit more credit too. The fact that her giant mech actually was able to like hold her own a little bit against Rerir is kind of crazy, right? Granted, Rerir still got the upper hand, honestly was about to whoop them all, but still, it's a bit crazy that, that damn mech actually did some stuff. But also, they also came through with like another name outside the other centers that River was kind of talking about when they got their full body back. Thelonious or Delonius or something like that. Whoever the hell that is, that's a new name we haven't heard before. So who the hell is that? We don't know. And that's something we're going to have to figure out as the patches kind of go on and such like that. But my whole point of what I'm trying to get at is, I didn't hate a single thing that happened in this patch. Story-wise at all. I didn't really have anything negative to say, even when it came down to like the slow sections of the beginning of Act 2, and you can very much say it's slow and it's boring, but there's a reason as to why it did it the way it did. I can't get mad at the reason as to why, and to be honest, it's kind of like, yeah, of course the story is going to have a slow moment. What story doesn't have a slow moment? If it's action all the way through, then it's pretty damn boring, honestly, when it comes down to it. Or it really just shows that you need something in your face constantly to be going wrong to kind of just get you into the story, which I feel like that's just bad storytelling, if I'm gonna be personally honest, right? And I don't think it was slow, but it wasn't like ultra slow in Act 2, right? In the beginning of Act 2, it wasn't like the ultra slow thing that we have been trying to see and stuff like that too. It was doing what it needs to do to set up what needs to happen later. And that's one thing I can very much also appreciate, is that they very much went in a route of trying to show you that yes, this is very much the storytelling of how we're going to go about certain things, and even things that happen earlier in the quest will actually be used later to be a major point, which is some resourceful ass writing that I've been wanting to see Hoyoverse actually do for a good little minute. It felt like they haven't done that, and honestly, like at least in a good way, in a while. But overall though, I do think this is easily the best, again, strongest start for a nation that we really ever completely had. And to also be real, I assume, because that was a weird ass voice, I assume that, we're gonna see Varka next patch, right? Not as a playable character, but just to be introduced into the story. Considering if we go on the whole pattern of what happened with like Auroron and, the captain, when they first kind of showed that off, that one cutscene off, or, if we really look at that sort of perspective, I would imagine they'll have a model ready to show for the next patch, and maybe Varka will come through 6.2. I could imagine that's the case. I could imagine. I kind of really hope that is the case of what they're going to do, and I just hope Varka's in-game model doesn't look like shit. I hope it actually looks really damn cool, and we will definitely see if it's going to be badass or not. But ultimately, it is just a good time. Krai is actually a very good time, with a lot of good characters, and also Nefa held up that big ass cannon. I forgot to mention that. And Nefa's bad as hell. She's good. She's very damn good. Basically, I guess as hell. But when it comes down to it though, again, Krai is very great. If you haven't jumped into it, I would highly recommend to do so. If you waited for the peak of Genshin, the true peak of Genshin, this is the time. I would argue that this is genuinely the time. And if you still ain't having fun with the game, again, this game might not be for you, and that's perfectly fine. But this is actually some of the best stuff Genshin has to offer in a good minute. Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, and I've only explored, you know, a little bit of the map. I haven't explored everything. So obviously there's still more to see, still more to do. Also the fact that characters kind of just flow naturally in the world when you just explore and look around, it's also really nice and cool. The fact that there's just different stuff each time to kind of, I guess, see when it comes to Not Cry as well, with again those characters. It's just really good. It's just really damn good. There's a lot to do. And this is just, you know, what I was hoping that they would do for a region like this. And I'm very curious to see what the future patches is going to be. So far, a very good start. 10 out of 10 personally, when it comes down to it. So, yeah, that's just how it is for me. And hopefully you did enjoy this, I guess, this look through of Nah Cry so far when it comes down to it. There will be definitely other videos I'll talk about when it comes down to Genshin as a whole, as we kind of just go throughout the days and weeks or whatever. But I did want to, you know, make this video because obviously the story was just excellent, and there's no way I could not see her glaze my glorious queen, Columbina, at all. That just had to happen. So that's all I got to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also have on the socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.